feeling you call?
Better, worse, I think better, but.
I think better too.
Yeah. I shouldn't say better, it's better, harder, easier, harder.
Picturing thousands of people out there, but I'm talking to you too.
All right, you ready? You got 1 minute, less than a minute, probably like 30 seconds. Okay.
Oh, well. Good day, podcast community. I'm Pete Kane. People call me Podcast Pete, and welcome to our live event. We're here at Grace Church in Kennesaw, Georgia, and we are here with a group of KPIs. What that means, key people of influence. So I want to bring to you the 5 major trends, because if we understand the time that we're in, and we understand how wind can be behind your sails, because these 5 trends are happening now. And if we recognize how we're navigating our business and you're using a strategy, you want to incorporate these 5 trends. We'll go through them quick enough, but not too quick. You can always search us online and find out a little bit more in depth about the 5 trends. The first one is the digital revolution. We're coming out of an industrial revolution. We're changing the way the world looks because your market is the world now. It's global. What we do here today, we have a gentleman in Nigeria. We have people in Philippines. We have them in different areas of the world because the world is smaller. It's more digital. And when we do this event today and you hear from 10 speakers and they're going to do 5-minute talks and they're going to talk about 3 points, that's a digital asset that is created. And when you get to hear from Richard Reimer, you're going to be able to understand why you need to protect those assets. You're going to hear from unique individuals that are creating digital assets. And you have to think about what you look like online. Google tells you what you look like. Doesn't matter what anybody says. When somebody meets you, they're going to Google you. And if they Google you and they don't see much online, they're going to think, well, maybe that was a great conversation, but I don't see anything to validate that conversation. So if you're out there, Google my name, Podcast Pete. You can put Kennesaw in it if you want, but just Google my name, then Google your name. The gap is your opportunity, because you want to be creating assets like we're creating today. Each 5-minute talk will be an asset for the speaker. We can take that asset and further repurpose that asset into short clips, because our attention span is very little today because it's chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of distractions. So people's attention is different than it was 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. So people want real short sound bites, but if they hear you say something of value, they're going to search you for more content. And as we get into a little bit later, KPI stands for Key Person of Influence. It's Daniel Priestley talks about that. He talks about 7-11-4. When I meet somebody, I'm going to Google them. But if I can't see enough content now to know, like, and trust you, I'm going to move on. So people have to consume 7 hours of you. So you got to put content out there. And they have to make 11 buying signals. And a signal is maybe buying your book, listen to your podcast, going to your Instagram account, listening, watching a post, requesting a book, requesting a white paper. Those are buying signals, and that comes from Google. It's a 0 moment of truth. And that truth is they got to make 11 buying signals. It's actually 10.6. But when people raise their hand and say, I'm interested in what you are doing, that's a buying signal. So you're going to see the world changing. It's not so much that you can show up with a LinkedIn profile and your website. The days have changed. That's not enough. You got to have content out there. You got to have digital assets out there. Podcast is a digital asset. We'll be talking more about podcasting, but every single person that's going to be speaking today understands the value of podcasting, because we will talk about more about podcasting, publishing, and building communities. But this is a digital asset you're watching. The second is Industrial Revolution. And if I would have thought I have a book, but I don't have it right now, it's over on the next to it. But there is an Entrepreneurial Revolution, which means it's never been easier to start a business. And I am finished. I wish I could give you the rest of them, but it's on our screen. Definitely go and seek out our information. Boy, you never realize how quick 5 minutes is going. Now, our next guest is a lady by the name of Glenda Hicks. I met Glenda about 2 years ago online. I knew of her, but she was on my podcast. And then when I found out what she was doing, she is, well, we talked about this. She is like the image of what we want to do. She's impacting nonprofits. She has a board game to gamify learning, and she is making a difference in our podcast community. So Glenda, I want you to have your 5 minutes to talk about the value of what you bring to our community and to our nonprofit community. So Glenda, would you please come on up?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, Pete. As always, it is a pleasure to be here with you on these podcasts on this morning. So today I want to talk about leadership aspirations. I'm sure many of you in the audience today have aspired to own your own business, to run your own company. As Pete just alluded to, it's so easy to start businesses now than it was in the past. And everyone wants to be their own boss. They want to sit in the boardroom around the table with highly capable, competent individuals, their officers, their peers, folks that they can make decisions with, that they can set the course of the company and set the direction and have an impact in their community. But what's interesting is you may already be doing that and you don't really realize it. That's the irony of it. Many of you also already serve on the board of nonprofit organizations. You've been asked to contribute your time, your talent, your treasure to help run a not-for-profit. But did you realize that in doing that, you're already running a business? Yes, a nonprofit organization is a corporation. They have to file with their state in order to be in business. And then they seek out individuals to serve on their board. So they do their research. They prepare for folks to come and serve with them, and they're looking for contributions. And that's where you can flip the script and realize, oh my goodness, I'm already doing this. But the question is, how well are you doing it? Did you do your research to ensure that this was in alignment with your own values and your personal mission and things that you want to contribute to your community? Did you prepare yourself to serve on that board in terms of understanding what it takes to be a board member, understanding what the legal responsibilities are, understanding that it is a corporate entity that's accountable to federal agencies, to state agencies, to community citizens, to people who are providing them funding to fulfill their mission? And so in understanding that, did you increase your skill set? Did you go to a formal training to understand what it looks like to sit around the table with people you've never met before and have to create a team in a very short amount of time? Board members turn over continuously. This is what we call your term of service. So you may be on a board for 3 years or 2 years, and you may do that for 2 full terms, and then you roll off and someone else comes on the board. And you have to create synergy and gel as a team because you're making decisions about the future of that nonprofit. Where are their funding resources going to come from? What policies do they need to have in place to protect their employees? What programs do they want to offer in order to make a difference in their community? These are decisions you're making as a member of that board. So you're already leading a corporation, even as you work at someone else's business. Every day you're getting up and going into work, and they're placing you in charge of various projects for their company. You might lead a team at that organization, or you might feel that you're being overlooked and you're not being placed in a leadership role because they don't understand the skill sets that you have and can contribute, and that you're ready to contribute. And so then you get an invitation to serve on a nonprofit board. Or maybe even your organization sees some things in you and they ask you to serve on the board of an organization, and they give you the time in your workday to go and volunteer at these organizations. This puts you in a position to make these kinds of existential decisions for a corporation that's in your community before you even file the paperwork to run a business of your own. And so you want to make those contributions of your time, of your skill, of your intellect, and of your money to the corporation whose business you're already running. You're in a position to make decisions that affect the lives of millions of people in your community, which are the people that your nonprofit organization is serving. And yet you still aspire to lead a business, to be on the board of directors, to tell someone you're the CEO. Well, newsflash, flip the script, think about it again, and realize if you've said yes to someone, that yes, I will serve on your board, yes, I'll help you start your nonprofit by being a founding board member, which means now you're setting up the policies, you're setting up the procedures, you're defining the infrastructure. Did you ever realize that you'd be in that position? Well, I'm here to tell you that you're already doing it, and you perhaps didn't realize it. So hopefully you'll look at your service on the board differently, and you'll begin to fulfill those responsibilities in the same way that you're fulfilling them at your day job. Thank you. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Glenda.
Always a pleasure to be here with you.
It's our pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
All right.
And we'll hear from Glenda a little bit later, but thank you, Glenda, for sharing that with our community. Now, Phil Brannon is our next speaker, but he's on the road to Tennessee. Something happened, tragic thing happened, and he's supporting a family member. A friend, family member. And so we're pivoting. And as Xana is going to be up in a little bit, she's going to talk about pivoting because you always got to pivot. So Phil, let me give you 1 minute of Phil. Phil is a corporate professional. He's our third avatar. He's always had that desire to have a voice in the world that's coming. We met each other at the American Legion, where we sat next to each other, and he voiced his desire to be a podcaster. Now, the guy I was with started laughing because he introduced us, and all of a sudden, Phil is in our community because he has worked for 40 years in an industry. He's a professional, but he wants to do something like freedom, entrepreneurship. He wants to take all his skills and bring them to the world. So our third avatar is corporate professionals that want to transition to a life of freedom and entrepreneurship. It's not easy. I did it back in 1988, and I got my ears pinned back. Went bankrupt after 2 years of having a comfortable corporate job, didn't have a plan, didn't know what I was doing. Well, the market told me I wasn't ready. So it tells you that it's tough. And if you're not ready with a strategy and you don't have a community like we're building here, it's going to be tough. But when you recognize that the world has changed, the world can be a wonderful place to have a business. Okay, so next, let's see. Okay, next, I'm going to speak about podcasting, publishing, and building communities. We do everything starts with a podcast. The individuals that are in our community have had a podcast because they're familiar with the power of digital assets we talked about, but we get a chance in our community to meet people, to get to know their story, to develop a relationship. I didn't know Glenda until I had her on my podcast. Then I found out what she was really doing in the nonprofit community. I saw the need, from my view, that we need people like Glenda. We need people that are going to make an impact, that are going to give, because a nonprofit creates a thriving community. Then I found out she has a game. Gamifying learning is the most powerful way you can learn a skill. So can you imagine you're sitting around the table, you're hanging out with your leadership, and you're having fun learning. You're learning and you're growing and you're making an impact on your nonprofit, which is making an impact on your community. I get emotional, so I have to learn how to breathe, because when I breathe, I can keep going. So we publish. What do we publish? We publish magazines and books. So if you're a KPI, you have to have a book, because that's your story. That's your calling card. That's your asset. You give books away to have people understand your story, what your uniqueness is to the world. So we also put a magazine together with Glenda's in it, and there's 31 others that don't even know they're in the magazine because I haven't had a chance to get back with them to tell them your story is in a magazine. So when we talk about your story being in a magazine with others, you develop a connection with those people. You build a community with those people. So it's so important that community is part of what you're doing. Podcast, publish, and build communities. So we're going to get into more of it. You can search this online. You can go to my YouTube channel where we have a lot of content up there. You'll be able to hear the story about Glenda, many different stories. You can search her, just put her name, and she's with the organization 501 Impact, 501cimpact.org. So search it, see what she can do to help you get her game. Gamify your nonprofit, bring your people together in community, learn the skills that Glenda shared with you. And the next person that's coming up in 2 minutes is a lady that I met at McKenna Farms, no more than probably 3 months ago. And she's been on my podcast. She made my 3 oldest grandkids came to McKenna Farms. And it was kind of we only could do 2 at a time because of car seats. So I took my youngest 2 and I watched them just with the biggest eyes you've ever seen. Just see animals, see a ranch, and meet Glenda with Thrive Ranch, and just be absolutely mesmerized by unique animals that they've never seen. They raise dogs, so they love animals, but they've never seen a paca. They've never seen a long-haired cow. They've never seen a chicken. They've never seen all the ones that Xana had there at McKenna Farms. And it was the most special time to see kids, my grandkids, connect with something they never have seen. So when you get to hear from Xana, you're going to get to hear a person that moved from Montana. Yes, moved from Montana to Brooks, Georgia, and brought all her funny farm with her. And it's the most amazing story that you'll ever hear. And I think, just think of your mind, her story. What is her story going to do to change the world? How many people is she going to impact in her community and the community that's digital worldwide? And you're going to get to hear from a lady that's making an impact on Brooks, Georgia, and further around the world. So, Glenda, excuse me. Xana, and she has the coolest name you'll ever want to see. Xana Wolfgang. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a name like Wolfgang? She did have to marry into that name. She wasn't born with that name. So, Xana, I'll properly introduce you. This lady, search her online, Thrive Ranch Co. Go to her Instagram account, see the stories, understand the impact she's going to make. And you get to listen to somebody that is on the move, that's creating an incredible opportunity for people to connect. And she calls her farm, the Funny Farm. So Xana, please come in and share with our community your story and the 3 lessons that you want to share with us.
Thank you so much, Pete.
You're welcome.
I am so grateful to be here today, and I actually have the opportunity to speak a couple times. So you're going to hear a little bit more about what brought me from Montana here in the second session that I speak on today. But right now, I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to talk about harnessing 3 superpowers. And you might be wondering, superpowers, oh boy, where's she going with this? But I assure you, they truly are superpowers. And the best part is they're available to each and every one of us. The concepts are simple, but they're not always easy to apply in our lives. But I wholeheartedly believe if you choose to harness them, they will empower you and transform your life. The first superpower I want to touch on today is grounding. You may or may not be familiar with this. It's also known as earthing. But what it is the opportunity to connect with the earth. We as humans were meant to be connected with the earth. And as you know, he talked about with my Funny Farm, I've really learned how getting back to nature can be so powerful. But through innovation, and while there's so many blessings in it, one of the things that we've gotten away from is that connection with the earth. And so it's affecting our health. And it's such a simple thing that we can incorporate into our lives simply by taking off our shoes and getting outside and wiggling our toes, among other ways. But the powers of this are truly transformative. They can affect you mentally, physically, emotionally. It can reduce inflammation. It can reduce stress, increase or improve your sleep. There are so many benefits: reduced anxiety, better circulation, just to name a few. That said, it is such a simple thing. When you do get the opportunity to visit us at the ranch, we incorporate some grounding with the animals and without that. But my life has been truly transformed by taking time to get outside. The pain and inflammation have gone down. My sleep is so much better. So I encourage you to wiggle those toes in the grass and the dirt and connect with the earth, even if it's just a minute a day. And in the rain, there's nothing better. So check that out. The second superpower I want to speak to today is personal accountability. Again, simple, but definitely not always easy. In our home, we have the saying called, "So what, now what?" This has been a transforming saying and just mindset in our lives. The reality is we're all going to walk through the good, the hard, the blessings, the lessons. And it's what we choose to do with it is where our power lies. That doesn't mean that things that we have had trauma from aren't valid and we aren't truly a victim of those circumstances. But if we choose to be defined by that, we're giving our power to whatever traumatized us in the first place. So what? Again, not discounting the pain that you might have walked through, but our power lies in now what. And so when we can do this from the smallest to the biggest things in our life, because truly the only thing that we have power over is how we choose to navigate it. When we look in and we discover how we can grow and learn and be better and take our power back. So personal accountability is the second superpower that I assure you, if you take this out into the world today and look at it as a so what, now what, when you're stuck in traffic, you will change your life. And the third superpower, not last, but definitely not least, is gratitude. Gratitude has the power truly to change your life. Again, so simple. All of these concepts are so simple, but we get busy with life and we fail to take time to be grateful. And I really discovered in one of my hardest seasons, on days when I felt broken and maybe didn't even feel like I had what it took to get up off the ground and do the things, that when I took a minute to consider what I was grateful for and write that down, or maybe you don't have time to write it down, but just reflect when you're driving in the car, whatever that may be. Consider what you have to be grateful for, and it will change your life. And those hard moments for me, when I took that time, I could physically feel my body shift energetically. And then it just changed the way I interacted with the world. And when you look for what there's to be grateful for, more absolutely will show up for you. And honestly, the true is the opposite. You can look for the bad and you'll find it. So it's up to you. You can choose, but I would choose the gratitude superpower. And the beauty of it is, by harnessing these superpowers, we're not just empowering ourselves. It's a ripple effect out into the world. And when you go out in the world with gratitude, other people are going to feel that as well. So I encourage you to implement these 3 simple, but not always easy superpowers. And speaking to gratitude, it's most important on the hard days. It's easy to be grateful when it's a great day, but on those hard days, that's when it's most important. So harness your superpowers and watch how it transforms your life. I would love to hear from you. If you implement one or all of these, how it impacts your life. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you so much, Pete.
You're welcome, Zana. Thank you so much for driving from Brooks, Georgia, all the way up to Kennesaw. That's somebody that doesn't mind being uncomfortable. Thank you so much, Zana. That was awesome. Every time I listen to you, I learn something, and thank you for being here. So our next speaker, like Zana will tell you when she comes up in just a little bit, you got to learn how to pivot. And in life, pivoting is part of a strategy. Our next speaker will probably be may have been stuck in the traffic. So we're going to bring up Glenda again to talk about impact. And when you look at what do you want to do in life? We talk about being bold, have courage, making an impact, and having fun. I don't know about y'all, but I'm having fun today. And it's a joy to bring such dynamic speakers to you that you can learn, grow, and be impacted with their message. So Glenda, would you please come and be with us for another talk on impact?
Thank you, Pete. So now I want to speak to you about, or speak to the consultants and the trainers that are watching the podcast today that have made a career serving nonprofit organizations. There's so many of us in this nation that are doing this work, and we encounter some of the same challenges with the organizations that we serve. We're looking to build their capacity and strengthen them and equip them with what they need to be successful and make a lasting impact in their community. Because what we're looking to do is create thriving communities. And so some of the challenges that we encounter are around the fact that boards don't necessarily gel together and understand that fulfillment of their roles and responsibilities. And they're being consulted or trained by those of us that have credentials in this space. And we're coming in and we're meeting with them and we're talking with them and you're discerning what it is that they need. And at the end of the day, you're trying to get to the root cause of these challenges that they're facing. And so they may have brought you in to do a strategic planning session or strategic thinking, or maybe you're offering board development where you're literally trying to equip them with the skills to understand how to better understand financial information when it's presented before them. Or you're looking at their measurement criteria in terms of the success of programs that they deliver to the community. You're trying to get them to use data and to leverage the innovation that we have available to us, such as through AI, and helping nonprofit organizations to really strengthen themselves and be aware of the changes that are taking place in our world, in our environment, in our communities, in our politics, and how is that going to affect their organization. And that's a lot of heavy content. And when you have, again, as I shared earlier, this turnover, you want to ensure that everyone is moving in lockstep. So as a consultant and a trainer, you're looking for innovative ways to break through and get the results that you need. And those results translate into a board that is delivering on the mission and having an impact, even though they're not in direct service with the clients that the organization is serving. And so as consultants and trainers, you're looking around trying to figure out, how do I get the result where people walk away saying, I get it now. I see that we need a strategic plan because we're operating from month to month, week to week, without a true vision, without set goals, without performance measures that really guide us and let us know that we're on the right track. We're not having meetings that are not about scheduled agenda items, but just social encounters to where we get to know one another better and we can hold ourselves accountable because we don't want to let our peer board member down by not following through on what we said we were going to do. We want to have a relationship with the chief executive that says, we've got you, we support you. We're not just your boss, but we understand your needs as a chief executive who wears a lot of hats and needs the support and the break and the funding to be able to achieve the goals that we've agreed upon and have put into our strategic plan. So there's a lot of results that you're trying to achieve, and you're looking for that solution that can help you get there in a way that's out of the box, that's unique. And that's where the board game of 501c Impact becomes a great tool for you in your practice with your consulting and training, because it gives you a lot of flexibility to drill down and talk about issues that, as we say sometimes, are the elephant in the room. When we've played this game, what we found is when we debrief the experience, you have board members saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the magnitude of what the chief executive deals with on a day-to-day basis. I now see where I fit in. I have had board members apologize because they haven't stepped up and fully committed to what they said they were going to do. We have members who recognize that when they invest in your time as a consultant to facilitate a think tank, a strategy session, they realize that having that roadmap allows them to move further than it did by managing by reaction instead of being proactive. And so there's a myriad of benefits that allow you to unearth situations within an organization that are going unattended because you're not diving deep in a way that allows them to feel comfortable and to have fun in the process and compete against one another and end up with a winner that has made the most significant impact in the community. So I'm excited that you came today to learn more about the power of this innovative tool, and I look forward to talking with you and showing you how you can incorporate it into your practice. So thanks again, Pete, for giving me this opportunity to share that information today.
My pleasure. And I'm stealing that from Chick-fil-A. Thank you, Glenda. So you can see when you hear from Glenda, the impact that she's making on our nonprofit community. So reach out to Glenda, go get her board game, listen to her podcast, understand more of what Glenda's doing to help our nonprofits with thriving communities. Our next guest, she's already been on our schedule. We had a little pivot. Our next speaker, well, Joannie Chamberlain is probably on the way. So you always got to pivot. You never know when change is going to happen. And so for us to bring you the next speaker on change, you can't make this up, because Xana is going to talk about why change and what she's learned in her travels, how it's so important. So Xana, please come on and be with our community.
Thank you again, Pete. Oh, well, I'm thankful to be back again. Change, embracing change. Change is truly one of life's most transformative gifts, and it gives you the opportunity to shed what maybe isn't serving you anymore. It gives you the opportunity to embrace new possibilities and ultimately get out of your comfort zone. So many blessings and lessons come when you embrace change. It can be scary, it can be exhilarating, but it is so powerful. What I've discovered is that when you're open to possibilities, it gives space for life to surprise you in the most unimaginable ways. A year ago right now, I lived in Montana, a place my family chose as our perfect canvas. I never saw myself leaving there. I forever cherish the majestic mountains, the big sky, the wide open spaces, so much so that it makes me emotional to speak to it. But what I have also discovered through this journey is that my heart is big enough to love two places equally. Last year, about this time, my husband was actually presented with an opportunity here in the Georgia area that, because we've learned the value of change, decided never say never. We don't know what we don't know. So he explored it and ultimately discovered that wasn't the path he was supposed to take. However, we kind of fell in love with the community that we moved to in Brooks, Georgia through the journey. And we decided, you know what, this crossed our path not because he was supposed to take this career opportunity, but because we were supposed to take this leap of faith. Our boys are grown. They are in Nashville pursuing their dreams. So one of the many blessings of taking this leap is we're a little bit closer to them. And things began to fall into place. Ultimately, we trusted our intuition, which is a big part of being able to embrace change, is getting clear on what matters and what doesn't to you. And at the end of the day, we made this move because we both felt that my impact that I'm supposed to make with Thrive Ranch Co., my funny farm, is supposed to unfold here. I am committed to changing the world one heart at a time, and the ripple effect that I'm creating in this community is where that's supposed to happen. That said, we took this leap, we took this change, and really trusted our intuition. There's a lot of uncertainty involved. Obviously, he didn't take the career path. We've had challenges that we're navigating, definitely had some pivots. And speaking to the pivots, one of the biggest things was I never in a million years, when I decided I was going to move a bunch of Highland cows and alpacas and goats and sheep and pigs and all the things from Montana to Georgia, how challenging that would be. And it's good I didn't know that, or I might not have signed up for it. That said, we figured it out. But one of the biggest challenges was I was told our pigs wouldn't make it alive, which was not an option. And I also learned through this journey, I've learned it a few times, but don't tell me what I can't do. I will figure it out. So what we ended up doing with a major pivot, because we initially envisioned loading them all up in a stock trailer and getting them here safely, is we ended up going through different scenarios, and I loaded those guys into a cargo van. You can check out our Instagram to see this whole adventure. Into a cargo van. I looked like Cousin Eddie, if anyone's familiar with Christmas Vacation, or maybe Breaking Bad. It could have gone either way, what I looked like going down the road, with a dryer vent duct taped to the AC unit, strapped all the way through the back of the van to keep our pigs cool enough so they wouldn't stress or overheat in this journey, since we decided to move to the south in the summertime. Anyways, there were pivots along the way. It was messy, but it was beautiful. And, you know, when you're embracing change, it's just so important. And I wouldn't be here talking to all of you today if we didn't take this leap of faith. And so what I would say to anyone is know that opportunities will open up. Doors will open that were probably there all along, but you were maybe too nose down doing what you were doing to notice them. And the path may be uncertain, but you have the ability to make really hard decisions when you're clear on why you're making them, even when the path is uncertain. And I can certainly speak to that today. And I am so grateful to be here and love two places and know that I am making an impact. And I just feel on fire and unstoppable. And that is what change can do. So that is what I want for each and everyone listening to that today. And if you ever want to talk to me about it, please do reach out. You can find me at thriveranch.co. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Xana.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I love saying that. So every time I hear Xana talk, I just absolutely, my heart melts because of the connection she provided for Where is Phil? He's a comedian. So usually I need a comedian to say something funny. So she provided the most special day. Thank you, Xana. Okay, our next speaker. Okay, when I was referred to have Richard on my podcast, I never dreamed that I would be the poster child for his industry. Had no idea, but I was captivated by anybody that would think about protecting your assets would be so valuable to our community. So when I started reading about 6 months ago, Key Person of Influence, every every podcast he did, everything I saw, it said, protect your assets. If you don't protect assets, you have nothing. So he lived it, Daniel Priestley. So I recommend, or no, I suggest that you get his book. And when you get his book, you're going to see Richard Reimer all through the book. So when I called him the other day and I said, man, I've been talking your language for about 6 months. Would you speak at our live event in Kennesaw? And he agreed to do it. So I want you to pay close attention, because our community, it's so important that you protect your assets. And we get to hear from Richard, who does that on a daily basis. He's a professional, he's an attorney, and he protects your assets. And he's going to share why you should think about protecting your assets. So Richard, thank you so much for being here. And we want you to share with our community.
Thank you, Pete. Pleasure to be here today and talk to all of you guys about something that, professionally speaking, has been very important to me for several decades now. I find that small business owners, anyone working in a small business, has so much on their plate. There are so many different challenges, from leading, creating all the solutions, all the problems that pop on a day-to-day basis, that so often intellectual property gets left in the dust. But I want to encourage you to think about that, because in a crowded marketplace, intellectual property is the thing that differentiates your business from all the others. So it really cannot be neglected too far, or you're not going to grow the way you want to. And from a small business perspective, there's really just 3 things I want you to think about that I'm going to talk through today that will help you protect your intellectual property and understand it better. Number 1, know it's yours. Number 2, make sure you're not the problem. And finally, number 3, secure your rights. So starting at the top with know it's yours. This is often a blind spot for small business owners. They don't truly understand exactly what things they own and what things they can protect. Hopefully in a minute here, I can let you understand what you need to be looking at. The legal world looks at intellectual property in 4 different buckets, and it might help you to understand what you're looking for by thinking in these buckets. First is trademarks. Trademarks are names, devices, symbols, taglines that identify your company, identify your products that you offer. It could be the layout of your floor plan. It could be your packaging, but anything that's meant to identify your company specifically in the marketplace is a trademark. Copyright is creative works. Now that applies greatly to artists and creative people, but it applies to businesses as well. You find copyrightable materials in the content on your website, the pictures, the videos, the text you have, marketing materials, and even software code. All those are examples of copyrightable materials. Next, patents. Those are items that are inventions, processes, or products that are unique to you in the marketplace. And then finally, trade secrets. These are confidential processes or items or confidential information that give you a competitive advantage. So looking through these, think about these 3 things. Number 1, what about your branding is unique to you? Number 2, what is it that gives you a competitive advantage in the marketplace? And number 3, how exactly are you going to be different from others, and what do you want others to see that are unique to you? Second category to think about is, are you the problem? Let's make sure you're not actually the problem. The vast majority of small businesses, well, frankly, any business that winds up in some sort of a legal fracas in the world of intellectual property didn't mean to get there. They weren't acting with malice. They got there because they weren't diligent. Very commonly, companies will find a new name for their new product and just slap it on the box, and away they go. They never think, should I look to see if anyone else has had this same great idea? And they wind up with a large legal bill and a rebrand ahead. And if they had just done a little bit of searching ahead of time, they could have avoided that. So in this area, 2 big things to think about. Number 1, before you launch a new brand, before you launch a new product, do some searching and make sure you're not infringing anyone else's rights. Number 2, don't copy without permission. This is text, images, songs, graphics, videos, you name it. Don't copy without permission and use it in a commercial context. The next category, the final category today, is secure your rights. A lot of people think that using your name or using your content on your website or other things fully protect you. Sometimes it gives you some protection to use without securing your rights, but securing your rights always at a minimum enhances your rights and sometimes actually gives you the rights to begin with. The 4 categories of intellectual property, trademarks and patents can be registered through the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Copyrights can be registered through the U.S. Copyright Office. And trade secrets don't have a way to register your rights, but you can cover those through non-disclosure agreements. So make sure that you actually protect them because they're vulnerable otherwise. So again, in summary, I want to make sure that you know it's yours. I want to make sure that you are not the problem. And I want to make sure that you secure your rights. Because remember, your intellectual property is vulnerable without doing these things, and it can prevent you from keeping your hard work yours and making sure that you have a successful road ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. Thank you, my friend.
I never dreamed that I would align so much with Richard's philosophy when I had him on my podcast a long time ago, a year and a half ago. But now he's going to help protect our community and he'll help protect you. So if you go to the show notes, you can have a link for Richard to be able to protect your assets, protect your trademarks, protect your copyright your things. Our next guest, thank you, Richard. Our next guest, when we were putting this together, we did a KBI, Kennesaw Business Association University, right before COVID. So we were planning, we're putting this thing together. We're going to have the best university. COVID hits and they stop it. But I met Jim. And I met Jim as we coordinated through this. And he helped me understand the world of streaming, helped me understand the digital transformation that was coming. Little did I know our event failed because of COVID. But I found a friend. And when I was putting this together, Kevin, who's behind the scenes, you can't see him. And there's always a person behind the scenes that you could never imagine is making these things happen. So Kevin Bora, we appreciate you. But I put Kevin, Jim, and myself together to say, how do we figure this out? Jim is my go-to guy to understand social and streaming. So we put it together and that started this journey. Now we're, 6 months later, we still work on it. We still change. And I wanted Jim to bring to you really what the world is changing. And if you're not understanding how the world's working from digital eyes, you're going to miss an opportunity. So Jim Fuse, please, and we met also, this is a quick thing. We share breakfast on the 3rd Saturday of each month at the American Legion. So we were moving to the 4th Saturday because we don't want to conflict with our breakfast at the American Legion. So Jim, please come and share with our community the power of streaming and what they need to be thinking about.
Thank you, Pete. And it's a pleasure to be here. And so I'm a part of this generation that you would say I'm a native analog, and there's this new generation, these younger folks that they're the native digitals. And so what we've run into is that we have this conundrum. This younger generation is consuming things through their phones, through their computers, through their tablets, and they really embrace the power of video. And so I'm a retired Marine. My tagline is, Fusion Marketing. We do marketing the Marine Corps way. But I didn't grow up with video. I didn't grow up with a camera or a microphone in front of my face. But as I was helping clients with marketing in about 2018, Facebook said, hey, you need to go live. And so, it's like I'm a believer in you got to eat your own dog food. If I'm going to tell you to do something, I should be able to do it myself. So I started live streaming in 2018 with one show called The Tim and Jim Show. And that's grown to where I have been an Amazon influencer since 2020 and have a show called Dealcasters where we go live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Amazon.com, and we talk about different things. And so what this has done for us, what this can do for you, is it creates genuine connection. Right now, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, you may be watching us live, you may be watching us on replay. So if you're watching us live, make sure you hit that subscribe bell and leave a comment, say hello, because what that starts is it starts that connection. It gives not only myself, but anybody else here that spoke today, the ability to start to interact with you, to start to grow that connection. And this is really where the power of live streaming is really helping us build know, like, and trust. Because the reality is we're live. If I mess up, if one of the speakers here that you've seen before me or after me messes up, there's no do-overs. We're not spending hours and hours trying to make things perfect. And the reality is you're seeing the real me here on video. You're seeing all these other folks. You're seeing them in their natural element. And unless they're really good actors, which is always possible, but this is giving us the ability to say, you know what? I like that person's message. I like that person's voice. And so as we build this know, like, and trust through live streaming, it's better than passive video, because right now, if you're watching us live, you can actually ask us a question. We can actually respond to that question. Now, this is a little bit different format today. We may not be doing that now, but once I get off the stage, I could go out there, go on this YouTube video and actually engage in the chat. So I think that's one thing that becomes very powerful for people. And so as we build this community, and if you're consistent with your live streaming, people are going to come back and want more. And of course, some people say, well, I didn't get a lot of people watching me live. Well, that's okay. Because imagine, okay, you had 10 people watch you live, but a couple days later, you saw you had 200 views. 200 people watching you is the equivalent of filling a movie theater. That's really not that bad of a problem to have, is it? So don't get caught up in the metrics of thinking that you need millions of people to watch you. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was this medium allows you to educate your potential client or your community on how you solve problems. Every person that's been on this stage today is a problem solver. It's not about me. It's not even necessarily about you who's watching us. It's about how do we help you solve your problems. So if you're a small business and you're not doing video, whether it's live or recorded, you're missing an opportunity to tell people what is it that you do. And so if you're not educating people, they really don't know what you do. They don't realize that you have that impact. And when you do video, whether it's live or recorded on channels like YouTube, and start to learn the power of Google, as Pete talked about earlier, you're really giving yourself an opportunity to get found and to grow not only your business, but your community, and really build that know, like, and trust. So I challenge you in 2025, start using video, because there's still lots of room for growth, especially with video podcasts. And so if you want to follow me, go check me out on LinkedIn at Jim Fuse, or you can catch us live when we're on Dealcasters at dealcasters.live. Thanks so much, Pete.
Thank you.
I'm going to say something else besides my pleasure. Thank you, Jim. Okay, our next speaker, you always have to pivot, like Xana said. Nothing is like carved in stone when you're an entrepreneur. You're figuring it out as you go along. So our next speaker, you already heard from him, but just in case something didn't happen according to our plan, you always have to have a pivot. So I want Richard to come back, but I also want to bring to your attention a book called The Entrepreneurial Revolution by Daniel Priestley. We're in an entrepreneurial revolution, so you have to think differently about how you protect and how you have a strategy. Everybody needs a strategy. I did a podcast on lazy thinking versus strategic thinking. Lazy thinking is I wake up, I check my emails, and I just go about my day. And then I'm distracted very easily. I do whatever somebody tells me to do, and I don't think strategically about how I plan my day. I get up very early. a little bit earlier than Xana gets up. I'm up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30. So for 5 hours, I do nothing but think, journal, and plan. Now, is that a little excessive? Yes. But sometimes when you have that kind of mindset, you just got to run with it. So our next speaker is going to come back because he's available for change. I just told him right before we started, if something goes sideways, could you come back and speak again? And he said yes. So Richard, we're going to get you back to talk to us about further understanding what you are providing for our community in this entrepreneurial revolution.
Thank you, Pete. It's great to have a second chance to talk to you guys. I'm going to obviously dig down into something a little bit more than I did last time. Before I started my firm 3.5 years ago to focus on the needs of small and mid-sized clients. The reason I felt that was a need is for the prior 15, 16 years, I worked for large law firms and represented really big clients. 9 times out of 10, when I contacted someone on the other side that my client had a problem with, it was a smaller mid-sized business owner. And I thought that these smaller mid-sized business owners were trying to ride on the coattails of the big businesses, and that's why they chose to infringe my clients' rights. But I kept hearing from these small and mid-sized businesses the same 4 words, but I didn't know. And after a while, I believed them. And now I truly believe them. And I understand that the reason there are so many different types of infringement from small business owners is because you don't know. So today I'd like to sort of help you understand what the big companies are doing and what you also can do, because it's the same path, to be able to protect one type of intellectual property, and that is trademark. Now, trademark, again, from my earlier conversation, is something that you use to identify yourself in the marketplace. It could be the name of your company, could be your tagline, could be your logo, could be the name of a product, could be your store layout's unique, something that identifies you specifically. So think for a second, Coca-Cola, the words Coca-Cola, the script they have, the red and white letter, color scheme, are all things are unique to Coca-Cola. When you decide that you want to adopt a new brand, one of the first things you need to do is to do a search. There are some simple tools you can use. The United States Patent and Trademark Office has a searching mechanism. You can just go on Google and type in the name of your brand and what you are going to be using in connection with. So Coca-Cola for soft drinks would be how you might do that. And see what comes up and see if anyone else has done that exact same thing. Spoiler alert, if you find the exact same thing, that's a bad decision. Do not go down that route. And it might be that you have several false starts. That's the way the big boys do it too. I think it feels unfair to small businesses, but it's not a unique set of rules. It's just the way the world works. So find a good brand. And I have a lot of tools that can help you with that. Obviously, I have a lot of legal experience as well that can get the information and help you understand what risk, if any, you might have. So searching is critical. Once you find a brand that you think meets your threshold, your amount of risk that you're willing to accept, getting a registration is very important. Now, there's more than one step in getting a registration. First of all, there's different levels of registration. You can get a state registration, a U.S. registration. You can get registrations in various countries. So there's different ways you can look at registration, but assuming federal, U.S., which most people do, the USPTO has an online system that looks incredibly simple. It's one of those things where they put a lot of time to try to make the form look easy. There's so much nuance and there's so many pitfalls. There's so many different ways that you could potentially go wrong. So make sure that you understand the entire system before you file an application, that you understand all the questions that are being asked, what your fact patterns is, and exactly how you should fill out everything that's in the form. Again, it's some place I think getting professional help would help you tremendously and give you a better product at the end of the day. That is only step one of getting a registration though, filing the application. You also will have a government review. The government reviews 100% of applications filed. This isn't like tax returns where maybe 5% or 2% see an actual human being. 100% get reviewed. Even more shocking, more than 80% receive a refusal of some sort. So getting a refusal is part of the system. We do that because we want to make sure that the marks that are registered, the brands that are registered, are are worthy of registration. So expect a battle, expect a fight. It's part of the system. Secondly, third parties. Well, actually, it's third, the application being number one, government review being number two. Number three, third parties can also oppose your application. It doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, it's a very critical juncture in what's happening. And having someone represent you there is almost a no-brainer. You need to have someone that understands the system very well to help you there. Finally, you need to show that you're actually using your mark out there in the marketplace, that you're selling the product or offering the service that you claimed you're selling or offering under that brand name. Again, that seems simple, but there's a lot of nuance to that. And going through it seems like a very simple thing that can be very difficult. So in a nutshell, there are the items that the big boys, the big companies are doing all the time that small businesses can also do. And it's a good way that you can utilize a trademark lawyer like me to be able to get the same results that the big firms get.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you on the fly being able. Is that awesome that you ask somebody 5 minutes before he goes on, can you do another talk? And he says, yes. I said, great. I love this. Okay. We had one person that came into some difficulties. It's not going to be here. So we're pivoting. Thank you, Zana, for that. We're pivoting right now to a gentleman I met at a fantasy football meeting or show. Now, I don't play fantasy football, but I did go that time because a friend asked me to draft, and I went, I don't even know who I'm drafting, but I used AI to not cheat, but I got my draft pick, so I tried to appear that I knew what I was doing. So I'm sitting next to this guy who's our next speaker, and I look down, and I see these big rings. I'm going like, holy mackerel, what the heck is that? So it started a conversation, and that conversation led to a number of podcasts. How many times do people present an opportunity to you that we look the other way? A lot. But this person, when somebody challenged him and put a basketball up and said in 6th grade, this can take you around the world. One person. There we go. Okay. One person took that message and he went on a path to go around the world playing the game of basketball. 3 countries, maybe 4, I think. A lot of countries. He achieved in college what we only dream of, walking away with 3 rings, Super Bowl size rings. And that you don't buy at Walmart. You have to earn them. So I kind of got connected to him because it was like, man, I wish at that age, I would have had that same desire, that dream, because I wasn't that good of a basketball player because I was, well, that's a side story. So I really enjoyed hearing his story. First to go to college in his family. First to be a professional basketball player in his family. And now he's going to be the first to be a multimillionaire because he's helping people navigate through the financial maze of life. And boy, you better have a plan for your financial future, because if you don't, that's lazy thinking, like we talked about. So Eric, I love his story, and you can search him online, and you can search him. If he's not helping people financially navigate through the maze, he's giving back to his community, coaching, training, and impacting youth, because we all need mentors. And he's mentoring our youth. So Eric, as you work your way up here, I'll stall for another couple of seconds as he makes his way up here. This is an individual that's making an impact on our youth, and he's making an impact on the world through his story, through his dedication, through his discipline, through his hard work, and through his story. So Eric, thank you.
Man, Pete, you always killing the introductions, man. I appreciate it. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm do my best here to try and stay within these 5 minutes. So as Pete mentioned, I'm Eric Watson. I was fortunate enough to live out a childhood dream and go play professionally overseas in basketball. I played in Romania, I played in Brazil. Spent a little bit of time in Iceland, Czech Republic, but yeah, it started with somebody coming to one of those career days, and he was like, "Hey, this basketball can take you all over the world." And at the time, it's like, wow, you start thinking about that. He was like, "Man, this is probably my best friends, some of my best relationships." And I was like, "Man, that sounds like pretty cool to be a kid and just you can live out that type of dream." And so I really wanted to make that happen for myself. So the points I'm going to talk on today are like the 3 things that kind of helped me fulfill that. And those lessons have helped me kind of tie it into what I do now, which is working in finance. And so, as I touched on, the first thing is like having that goal and vision. For me, I'm not that tall, I'm like 6'1", 6'2", is not that tall in the basketball world. So I had this vision of I knew I wanted to play professional basketball, and I had to hold on to that and really believe in that. So I get to carry that over into like my financial space now. It's like, hey, have an idea of like where it is you want to go, where it is you want to be. But my road basketball wise, like I said, it was I wanted to be the first in my family. I knew nobody had went to college before. I knew that was my route. And again, who doesn't want to travel the world, see all these different cultures, see all these different experiences, and be able to play? So that was number one. You have to know where it is you're going and know what it is that you want and have a clear picture of it, because there's going to be people that don't believe in it, and you're going to have to hold on to it and be willing to put in a lot of work. Which leads me to my second point as far as just that self-discipline. I remember I was never a morning person, still not a morning person, but I was like, okay, what can I do to set myself apart when you have a lot of people that are chasing the same thing? So I had my routine of waking up in the 5 a.m.s and spending a lot of time in the weight room and the gyms, and I'm going to kind of like skip through this story a little bit, but yeah, it takes a lot of hard work. And it was like, picking people's brains. Hey, you played in college. What did you do? Hey, I had this routine. This is what I did every single day. Okay, hey, let me go to the next person. Hey, what made you different? How did you get to the next level? And I started picking people's brains and asking people on, who were in the field or were in the space where I wanted to go. And it all boiled down to everybody had a routine. So I was like, okay, if I want to set myself different, okay, clearly I need to be regimented, doing the same thing every time. I need to change my diet. And so that's exactly what I did. A lot of pounds ago. But yeah, I started working out all the time, changing my diet, being real residual with my routine. And so again, tying it back into what I do now, it's, hey, we need to get in a routine, whether it's like saving and trying to get to certain goals you want to get to. But that was one of the biggest things that really helped me, because prior to that individual coming, I was just out there, let's just play, let's just shoot. And that really wasn't getting anywhere. But I really noticed a difference once I really implemented my routine and where it is I wanted to go. And then that last point is you got to have a lot of self-belief that you're going to get there. Because again, there's going to be those days where you're hurting or life just happens and it's not really the clearest path that you can't see it. So I remember going to college, like the school I went to was Maryville College. It's Tennessee. I didn't get the big Division I scholarship. And I'll never forget it. Somebody was like, you sit down, it's like, hey, what do you want to do once you get out of college? And, I'm a young kid, but at the same point in time, like I knew what I wanted. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to go overseas and go play. Well, Maryville College, not many people know where that is, but it's a really small school just outside of Knoxville. And like at the time, like nobody had gone on to play for Maryville College, like a little Division III school. And so when somebody's like, oh, I think you need to rethink that, like, it's not necessarily the greatest feeling to have, but the thing is that I had to hold on to was like, I had that belief in myself, and it was like, okay, I hear what you're saying, lady, but you just don't know how bad I want this and how hard I'm willing to work. Because at the same point in time, I had to hold on to the idea of like, hey, you weren't in the gym with me all these hours. You're not going to be in the gym with me all these hours while I put out all this blood, sweat, and tears and everything that goes into it. And so little by little, year by year, you start breaking record after record after record. Then eventually scouts start calling. You start doing these different things. Records start happening. Championships start happening. And I'm able to make that go into a reality. And so I'll wear these now as a reminder of all the work that went into it. I was fortunate enough to do that. I come back. I've helped coach in college. We've won some. I take pride in I've coached a little kids group, coached them all the way up. They're now juniors in college. And so it's just a constant reminder. And so even like I said, in the business world now, working in finance, I get to tell people like, listen, like I want to help you win your version of a financial championship. And so that brings me joy when I can help somebody with the current situation and relieve some stress, help them get where they're going to get and help them understand. It's not going to be easy, but I'm over time. I apologize about that, but love to continue sharing stories, and that's me.
We never want you to apologize for your story because it's an incredible one. For those that want to know more about Eric, just search his name. You'll see some of our podcasts that we've done on mindset. Thank you so much, Eric,
Thank you.
again, for sharing with us a little bit about your story, but keep searching. Look, because everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a dream. The magic is in you, and I've done a podcast. The magic is in you, and anything is possible. I met this next gentleman. He couldn't be with us. He's up in Canada. He's my partner. We've known each other for about 9 years. Never met him in person, but I met him when I had an opportunity to be in his mastermind. It was an expensive investment. My friends called me, I will tell you nicely, not smart. But anyway, it turned into a partnership years later. And he is the one behind 2 of our ecosystem strategies. His book talks about AI. Our fourth major trend is technology and AI. You have to figure out how are you going to use this new technology. You might hear some sound bites that it's going to eliminate this, it's going to do this, it's going to change this. Will there be change? Absolutely. Who knows? Nobody knows what 5 years is going to bring, but I can assure you there's going to be more change in the next year to 2 than we've ever seen in our lifetime. And if you're not embracing AI, you're not embracing technology, you're going to be one of the few that's going to wonder what happened. Be ahead of the trend. Understand that the world is changing. Understand how you can leverage AI and technology. He has a book out there. He's written about 300 books last year alone. So is he a little excessive? Yes, probably why we get along so well. But here, 9 years later, I've never met him in person, but he's like a brother when you think of the conversations you have, when you think of the trauma that we talked about, because PTSD is real. We grow through our trauma. I'm going to come back at the end, and I'm going to introduce another speaker in just a minute, but I want you to think, it was February 5th, 3 years ago, I woke up in a hospital room. Having survived a pretty massive stroke. Now, I can do this. You would never know because I don't raise my hand, left hand that much. But that's 3 years later. I have been going to PT twice a week for 3 years. I've been going at 5 a.m. when I lived at Overture every single day to work out. So you're dealt a card. You can either fold or you can play it. Your choice. If you learn how to play that card, because this gentleman, I had a digital marketing business before my stroke, probably gave me a stroke because it's not an easy business to be in. It's always changing. But he took 2 largest accounts and helped me through it because he had a brain injury. He was in a car wreck. He used to be a CPA like Glenda. He fortunately, and I think Glenda would share, former CPA is not a bad thing to be because our creative CPAs are limited. I can say that. Just knowing my journey with Jeff. He's glad he had that car accident. He's glad he shifted from being a CPA to be a creative marketer. He has an AI agency up in Canada. Here's his book. Get his book. You can go to our ecosystem, which is petekane.me/masterclass. He's number 9, free course. When I was probably about 10 months ago, I'm doing podcast after podcast. I can't get enough because I love the spoken word. I don't like the written word. So I'm just going to town. And he says, Pete, are you using AI? And I said, no, I'm too busy. I was stuck on the busy bus. Then I searched on my phone a 12-week course on mindset, goals, and habits. And it literally in 10 seconds spit the most impressive framework. Then I take the next 20% to fine tune it. But I used AI to do 80% of my heavy lifting. I never would have been able to create that. Even if you had a gun to my head, I probably couldn't have done it because I'm dyslexic and I have ADD. So those kind of weird combinations doesn't create things like that. But technology did. Now I have a course on mindset, goals, and habits. AI helped me do that. I did it because he kept pushing me. Do it, experience it, do it. And that's kind of like in life. You need that mentor. You need that coach. You need that person that's vested in you to push you beyond your blind spots, because everybody has them. If we think we can do this alone, you're sadly mistaken. You need a community. You need somebody to push you, a mentor. Well, I've talked about it before, but if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you ain't doing it alone. There's 4 base camps along the way. You hire a guide that's done it. You get to the first base camp. What do you have to do? You got to reevaluate. Your guide's going to say, hey, the weather changed. We're going to go up the east side of the mountain instead of the west side of the mountain. If you're doing it by yourself, you go up the west side, well, the outcome could be you're not going to make it. And plenty of people don't make it up that journey. Business is just like that. You got to have a guide, a coach to help you reach the high performance of level. The lady that's going to come up next is done a TED Talk. She's my current coach right now. Glenda said this. I didn't say it. We were talking and she goes, I had asked her, she's spoke at every event we've had. And she said something when we were talking on the phone. She said, oh, they're Pete Talks. I went, what? Pete Talks? I said, yeah, they're 5 minutes. They're Pete Talks. So I was kind of like, that's weird. That's kind of cool. So if you take 3 Pete Talks, you can have the framework for a TED Talk. So this lady has done it. She has been, she's done a TED Talk. You can search her online. She's my current coach. Just met her like a week ago when we teamed up and she's my coach. But when I searched her online, I saw her TED Talk. I immediately went to it and I was just captivated because that's like the Super Bowl of talking, is to be on a TED Talk. So Christy's coming to us from Idaho. So she's not in our crowd. She's not in Kennesaw. So we have our Kevin Bora in the back room who navigates through technology. And one quick thing before I bring Christy on. There was about 3 weeks ago, I had another coach up in Columbus, Ohio. I never told Kevin that I wanted to stream him in. So that morning we're talking and I said, oh, by the way, can we stream a guy from Columbus? He goes, well, you could have told me ahead of time. And that was that morning. He went to navigating through all this stuff. And I said, I know I didn't tell you about it, but he figured it out. And we had Mark Matthews streamed because Kevin figured it out. Hire a professional. Hire somebody that knows what to do. I never would have figured it out in a million years. So I've been told that I got to move this podium, and Christy's going to be from Idaho. Christy, I can't even pronounce her name. Huss. That's a little dyslexia, so I think it's Huss. Okay, Christy, come on with. Oh man, this is so good. I see her.
Hello. Just making sure you can hear me.
Yes. She can't hear you, Pete.
Got it? Yes, thanks. Yes, I'm Christy Huss from Iowa. We often get Iowa and Idaho mixed up, but I'm glad to be where in the world with you today, and I'm in Iowa. I want to start out by just asking everybody to get a thought, a trip, the best vacation you've ever been on. I want you to think of that. It could be very recent, it can be way back when. And I want you to hold that, the best trip that you've ever been on, the best vacation. And what if I told you that you could actually use that vacation and trip and feel like that more in life and actually get your goals achieved at the same time? For me, last year, like Pete said, it was a TEDx talk that I wanted to complete, and that was a bucket list goal that I achieved last year. And as a travel advisor and over 25 years of experience planning trips for people in the world, I learned that I could help guide them get to where they want to be in life through speaking and as a high performance coach. And merging those two worlds of vacations, planning trips, and getting to where you want to be in business and your personal life, we can actually have a lot of fun along the way. So if you look at the way that you currently are doing your goals achievement, goal setting, we need to look at things a little bit differently. Quite often, we don't even know where to start or where to begin. And if we look at things a different way, reframe them, I refer to them as flips. We can flip our perspective and thinking. We can really change how we go about it. And that first flip is go from wander to explore. That first part is clarity, and it's so important. We often don't even think about what it is we want to feel each day, what it is we want to become and do. And when we start to really explore that and set out to plan accordingly, that's the same thing you did probably with that trip that you have in mind. You figured out where it is you wanted to go, where it is you wanted to experience your time, and then you planned accordingly and set your timeline. So usually people know what they've been putting off till someday. Maybe it is a dream trip, but maybe it's that bucket list goal and you have a mission or a calling or something you know you're meant for more. Doing a little bit of that exploration, you can figure it out and move on to the next part. So how do we plan? Well, the next flip is quite often how we approach life, and that's with the daily grind. So I say go from the daily grind to the daily find and make it an adventure. You can have fun along the way, and life isn't meant to be lived from weekend to weekend or vacation to vacation, just going about life, taking on more without the thought of how you actually want to feel and what it is you want to do. By setting your time and being productive in the right areas and infusing things that you love about those things that we love about vacation, you can actually use them along the way. And it's not to be just a reward when you achieve the goal or when you get to the destination, but by experiencing that and infusing that along the way, you can actually have more enjoyment and fulfillment on the journey. And because you've already got that clarity that you have when you were an explorer, you know what things are meant for you to do and how it is you should be spending your time. It makes it easier to carve out your unique path. And as a guide, I love to help people through the high performance pathway as their guide and figure out what is that goal? What is that dream that they want to experience, a bucket list goal? Even it could be something fun like what it is they want to just experience more fulfillment on their journey. That is what we can work through and go through as your guide. So now that we're navigating your journey, and I help with some navigational tools to keep going forward with clarity, confidence, and courage. Let's talk about what the outcome could be. I call that the next flip is from goals to great. Not only achieving a goal, it's not one of those where you check it off and you feel like, well, what's the next thing? And you didn't even get to enjoy it. When you infuse what makes a good trip or a vacation alongside that goal and dream, it can be anything that you want to experience. And that gets to be unique to you, whatever that vision is for what it is you want to do. I like to do it in 90 days. And just by setting a time that you're going to take that trip, that's when my goal is going to be achieved. And I'm having some fun along the way. So the goal of doing a TEDx talk was absolutely a bucket list goal. Writing a book was a goal. And I'm about to embark on my next 90-day journey to write a book in 90 days. But it is going to be with a lot of fun and doing it my unique way. And the best part is when you go on a trip, when you set out to do something, you know you're heading there. You're gonna endure the bumps in the road, and you're gonna look at it just to get to where you want to go. And you can do that with your goals too. And when you do that, you're going to also embrace the ups and downs. You're gonna have fun. They might even be some of your best memories when they come up. And you're not going to use a trip or a weekend, shopping, food, as an escape. It is going to enhance your life. So by doing the proper planning, trips aren't meant to be an escape. They're meant to enhance your life. So by doing that inner journey work and navigating your inner world, you understand it. And so you can enjoy the outer world and explore, like every day can be an adventure.
Christy can't hear us, so I can't give her any feedback, but thank you so much, Christy, for being with us from halfway across the world, or at least the country. And so thank you. Our next session is clarity. So I love what Christy does. I love that she's done a TED Talk, and she can help anybody to get to that ultimate. Not that it's the destination you're after, it's the journey. So what I want to share with you now, if you'll give me about 3 seconds to go get one thing. Like I said, it's an emotional time starting February 5th. It'll be 3 years since I had a stroke. Now, the good news is I survived. That is good, because you want to survive, especially in these times. Now, the bad news is you got to navigate through 3 years of whatever. I was dealt the card. I did survive, lost the left side. That actually turned into a blessing, because it woke me up to the mindset of, if that was my last day on earth, did I make an impact? Was I bold? Did I have fun? Now, growing up dyslexic and ADD, it's a weird combination. At 17, I found myself failing high school English. Now, English is my primary language, not my second language. I was given a blank diploma. I wasn't given a blank diploma like a lot of times. They didn't, they just flunked me. I had to go to summer school to graduate. Then I started 2 years at Virginia Tech. Both 2 quarters the first time, failed. Second year, I go back, get an apartment, think I just got to get more focused. Failed. So at 18 at the time, I embarked on a career, not understanding what dyslexia was, but I was diagnosed after 2 failed attempts at Virginia Tech. Thank you for my parents for at least confirming what I didn't understand at the time. So I tell you that to tell you I've lived. This is the harder part. When you send an email came years later, the fear that every other word is misspelled is a real fear. It's a trauma that you live with. For 50 years. So I tell you that. Did I like going through that? No. Did I go through depression? Yes. Did I go through suicidal ideology? Yes. Because every time I got overwhelmed, I went to a pill. And the pill started out with Ritalin, and then it ended with Adderall. I was addicted to Adderall. I'm drug-free as of February 17th, 2 years ago. I actually came out of my stroke, and I'm a pretty good salesperson. And I sold the people in charge to put me back on Adderall, which was the worst thing I could have done. I take the blame. I'm just a good salesman when I believe in something. When you're addicted, you believe in it. And the first thing I did, 5 o'clock every morning for the last 10 years, I took a pill. First thing, 7 days a week, never missing, even Sunday, which is a day of rest, I needed the pill. Well, it finally hit February 17th. It was not a good day, but it told me that I gotta get help. And I started repairing my brain. One quick story. A year later, after I spent time at Shepherd, I spent 39 days in Shepherd and 10 days at Wellstar. I went from hell to heaven, because when you're in the hospital at night, I tell you what, it wasn't a good time. But when I went to Shepherd, it was heaven. A team of people met me. It was the most incredible 39 days I've ever spent. I know 74 names, 74 people by name. I even had Jamie Shepherd on my podcast because I could not believe how anybody that the insurance company pays the bill could give the care that they gave. And I understood years later why they were so special. But there's 74 names, 74 angels that helped me learn to eat, learn to walk, learn to do all the basics. I ran in 20 plus peach trees. I don't run today yet. I play golf 5 days a week. I get up at 5 a.m., I work my butt off, and then I play 5 days a week. I don't play golf anymore yet. So you have pivots in life. And I think to understand what is your pivot, what is your change, what are the cards that you're dealt, you just got to figure it out. So starting February 5th will be 3 years. Am I still zigzagging? Can I run? Nope. Can I play golf with two hands? Well, my drives are 120 versus 250. So I'm learning I'll be a better short game player. So what I'm saying is we have starting the 5th of January, my partner and I are coming together to bring you the key KPI ecosystem. We're going to produce, like Christy said, a book in 90 days, your book, your authoritative book in 90 days. Excuse me, not 90 days. No, 3 months, 12 weeks. 12 weeks. We'll have a book that you'll activate. You'll be in a magazine. You'll be with 20 people. 20 people. If you look us up on Amazon, Kennesaw Happenings, you'll see Glenda Hicks in this book. She knows it, but 31 other people have no idea they're in this book. Maybe 30, because we put this together so you could see and imagine, touch. In this book is 32 stories. And Glenda's in here because she's impacting nonprofits. And she's changing the world through gamifying nonprofits, helping people learn how to create thriving communities. So what's our offer today? This is my pitch. I have to get good at this because KPI says you better be good at your pitch. So you'll spend 12 weeks in a transformation. And what does that mean? That means in 12 weeks, we're going to coach you, guide you, push you through 12 weeks of creating your authoritative book, being part of a magazine with the 20 people, and being part of a mastermind type group that'll encourage you, push you, hold you accountable, and be able to produce something that you can put your hands on. Because way back before it got cold here in Atlanta, I walked the community and I just met business owners. And I'm walking in Chastain Road, which if you're from Atlanta, you know about Chastain in Kennesaw. And I met like 10 to 15 business owners. I was surprised that they didn't even know their neighbor. Here you are, right beside a person. And I said, do you know Joe next door? No, I've been in there to eat, but I don't really know Joe. He's your neighbor. You don't know him? Well, we're going to bring first the magazine to a city, then we'll keep going down into a niche, like a shopping center. Can you imagine 15 businesses having a magazine in their business with the stories of the people in that shopping center? Everybody has a story. As you heard today, everybody has a story. Some of us have more than others, but we all have stories. And if you can understand your neighbor's story and you can tell your neighbor's story, there's a better chance people can understand how to know you, like you, and do business with you. So our offer is go to petekane.me/opportunity. We'll start our first 20 February 5th, 3 years from when I had my stroke. Is that strategic thinking? Yes. And when you spend 5 hours a day thinking, you come up with crazy ideas. So anyway, we want to take you $750, which works out to be $250 a month, and $50 a month in Growth Day. Glenda and I know about Growth Day. We're part of that. There's 500,000 people in Brendan Bouchard's Growth Day. Making personal development a daily thing. It's like the Netflix of personal development. So you want to develop yourself, you want to get better, that's $50 a month. That's part of the journey. Wrap yourself around personal development. Wrap yourself around the daily fire. Wrap yourself around growth streaks, which helps you activate your day. Because I share with people when I have a chance that every day I live my life like it's my last. Because one day I'm going to be right. But until then, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to make an impact. And I'm going to have fun. So, you want to be bold, you want to make an impact, and you want to have fun, go on a 12-week transformation with us, and we'll do our best to activate your book, put you in a magazine with 20 other people, develop those relationships, and we'll be back here February 22nd. So, you want to be a part of our community? Get on our podcast. Let's hear your story. And then if you want to be bold and make an impact and have fun, join us on the 22nd of February so we can support more of our community, because you've heard from amazing speakers today. Absolutely amazing. Now, because Phil couldn't be here and Joannie had an issue with just scheduling and stuff, we're gonna do this again. And we're going to do it remotely to give you the talk again. So you can enjoy 15 talks, 10 speakers that are changing the world. So I want to thank our speakers. Richard, thank you. Glenda, thank you. Xana, thank you. Jim, thank you. Eric, thank you. And special thanks to Kevin Bora, because you can't see him, but he's running the control center behind us. So thank you, Kevin. So thank you so much. If you want to leave a comment, just get a hold of these speakers. We'll put their show notes in their talk so you can further get to know these people and get to know how they can impact your life. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Be bold, make an impact, and have fun. I'm trying to learn how to work on it.